Hello, welcome back. In this module, we're going to cover the authentication part of our application. We're going to build a sign-in, a sign-up. We're also going to add OAuth integration to our app. That will give the ability for users to sign in with Google, Facebook, Twitter. To get started, let's lay out the foundation for our module. Let's go over to our terminal and create our module. As we've seen before, we can use the shorthand commands. G for generate and the M for module. Going to create an auth and you're going to add it to the core module. The core module will act as a bridge between our app and our feature module. Like this, we can avoid cluttering the root of our application. Now, as you can see, we have our auth module. Now let's create the components. We will use the ng generate component command this time. Also the shorthand G, or you can use C for short. Let's put it into the auth folder. Let's call it sign in. Now let's do another one for sign up. You can use the arrow key to navigate between your last commands, and let's create one to reset a password. Now our auth module is ready, but in order for our app to talk to Firebase, we should create a service. In Angular, a service works as a middleman between a third-party service and your app. And from the service, you call it into your component. So now let's create an auth service, and we're going to add it to the core module. Ng generate service. Let's put it in the core folder and call it auth. I'm going to also add it to the core module. By adding it to the core module, we prevent multiple instances of the service. Let's just press enter. And now we have it in here, and it's also added as a provider in the core module. And here we have our components. We're not going to use the common module in here. We're going to use the share module for it. And that's the main reason of a share module, because many of our feature modules will use this common module. We will import it in here, and then we will export it to the other places. In here, we can also add forms module. Now we've created our components, our authentication module, the service, and we also learn about the functionality of the share and the core module. Now let's go ahead and create a routing module so we can see these components in the browser. Let's create the same way, ng generate module. Let's call it routing. Let's add it to the root of our application and also import it to the app module. So now if you check in the app module, it was imported in here and added to the imports array. And here also we can delete the common module. And we're not gonna declare any component, so let's swap this for an export array. And we'll see that in a bit. To create our routes, we need to import routes and the router module. And that is in the Angular router. The router module. So in the imports array, let's add router module. And here we're gonna call a for route and pass a routes array that where we're gonna add our routes. A new instance of routes, and that will be an array of routes. First we will take a path. Let's leave it empty for now, and now we're gonna load the children, which will point to our auth module. We'll call the auth module in here as well. Now we need to export the router module so we can use somewhere else. And in our auth module, let's start to create our routes. We're going to do the same here. So let's copy the imports from here. We're going to create our routes array here as well. So const routes. is a new instance of the routes. And here we're gonna add all our auth routes. We take a path, and now we're gonna add a signing path, and it takes a component, which is the signing component. It also accepts extra data. In here we can add things like title, so let's call it signing. And let's do the same for the other ones. So sign up. And also a reset password. Set password component and the title. If you use Ctrl and the arrow keys, you can navigate in between the words so you can move faster. With that done, we need to add the router module to our imports array, and in here we're gonna call for child and also pass the routes in here. So now let's start our server and test it in the browser. Try to navigate to signing and nothing happens. And the reason is that we need to add a router outlet to our app component, to the root of our application. And here let's just create a router outlet and test. And there we have it, it works. The router outlets will check in our router file and see what component they should display. So now we've created our auth module, our components, we added the routes, and we're displaying it with the router outlet. So let's continue and start to create our signing component. I see you in the next lesson.